Tonight, on the first day of the conclave, no pope yet. The world's eyes locked on that chimney as black smoke emerges after the first vote. The next time we will see the College of Cardinals, the Catholic Church will have a new pontiff. The doors closing as they settle in for the long haul. In anticipation, 30,000 people descended on St. Peter's Square. My reporting with our team at the Vatican. Acquitted on all charges, 3 former Memphis police officers on trial for the death of Tyre Nichols cleared on state charges, why they could still face years in prison. The new student protests at Columbia University, scuffles overtaking the main campus library. We're there. 2 nuclear nations, India and Pakistan, on the brink over Kashmir. India launching a military operation on what it called terrorist sites. Pakistan saying it shot down Indian airplanes. Our new reporting, why some detainees may be sent on a military flight to Libya. The lawsuit to stop it just ahead. The high-stakes talks over tariffs. The U.S. and China now set to meet amid the ongoing trade war as shipments slow. The manhunt for a murder suspect while his trial is supposed to be underway. A cut-off ankle monitor and cell phones found. And the butterfly effect, why these extinct beauties are getting a shot at flight again.
This is NBC Nightly News, the Papal Conclave. Reporting tonight from the Vatican, here is Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Rome held its collective breath tonight, hoping and praying that the night would bring a new pope. Instead, it brought a steady plume of black smoke that poured from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, reminding all the process of electing a new leader of the Catholic Church would not be an easy one. The conclave to replace Pope Francis beginning late today, with each of the 133 cardinal electors taking an oath of secrecy before the doors of the Sistine Chapel were closed, leaving them cut off from outside contact. Today, just 1 vote was held, but after roughly 3 hours, no agreement. The ballots burned for all the world to see. Tomorrow and subsequent days, they'll vote up to 4 times. And once again, as they did here this evening, the faithful are expected to crowd St. Peter's Square in fervent expectation that white smoke will bring a new pope. It was 9:01 this evening at the Vatican when the first smoke billowed out of the Sistine Chapel. Black, no pope. After 3 hours of craning their necks and aiming their phones towards the chimney, the crowds quickly poured out of St. Peter's Square. The cardinal electors began the day with a special mass at St. Peter's Basilica before walking in procession to the Sistine Chapel, a sea of red. With a Swiss guard protecting the door, one by one,
Ed ego, Timothy Cardinale Stolen.
Each of the 133 cardinal electors placed a hand on the book of the Gospels and swore an oath of secrecy in Latin.
Extra omnes.
Then everyone else was ordered out, and the doors were sealed. Our only indication of what happened next, the black smoke that rose into the evening sky. Sean McKnight is the Archbishop Designate of Kansas City, Kansas. What do you want to say to the new pope?
Well, I'm looking forward to a pope that's going to lead the church effectively in this time that we are living, and who has a history of being a good, effective leader, but also one who understands the need for transparency and accountability in the church.
The electors will return to the Sistine Chapel tomorrow morning. They'll vote up to 4 times each day, burning their ballots twice a day, as millions around the world watch for black or white smoke. Besides the white smoke and the ringing of the bells, my strongest memory of covering the last conclave was the sight of the streets of Rome being quickly filled by people who had heard the word that a new pope had been elected. It was a river of people filling St. Peter's Square, people looking at the balcony waiting to see the appearance of the new pope. Laura Schuberg says she booked a flight from the U.S. as soon as the conclave was set.
My goal is to just plant myself in St. Peter's Square and stare at that chimney until we see white smoke.
Are you prepared for this to go on for several days?
our flight's on Monday, but I'm telling you, if for some reason it goes longer, we're canceling those flights. We are staying in there until we see white smoke.
And Ann Thompson joins me here at the Vatican. And it doesn't appear that we're seeing a front runner.
No, there's no one candidate who checks all the boxes, Lester. There is Pietro Parolin. He's France's Secretary of State, is a good manager. He knows most of the voters. Then there's Jean-Marc Aveline. He's the Archbishop of Marseille. Most France's like in being a pastor, but some question his Italian language skills. There's Pier Battista Pizzaballa, the Patriarch of Jerusalem. He gets high points for courage. He offered himself as a hostage to Hamas in exchange for Israeli children, but he just turned 60. He may be too young. That would mean a long papacy. And then there's Robert Prevost. He's worked in Peru and Rome, but he's an American, and that makes him a long shot.
All right, Ann Thompson tonight. Thank you. 3 ex-Memphis police officers charged in the beating death of Tyre Nichols were found not guilty on state charges. Priscilla Thompson has the latest, and we have to warn you, some of the images you're about to see are disturbing.
The council would like to stand with their clients.
Tonight, 3 ex-Memphis police officers charged in the 2023 beating death of Tyre Nichols acquitted.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Tadarius Bean, not guilty. Demetrius Haley, not guilty. Justice Smith, not guilty.
The former officers seen here hugging their attorneys and sobbing after being cleared of 7 state charges, including second-degree murder, stemming from this traffic stop. Body cam footage appearing to show officers kicking, punching, and batoning Nichols, who died from his injuries 3 days later, sparking nationwide protest.
Any fair-minded person who watches the video would come to the conclusion that everybody there had some responsibility for Tyre Nichols' death.
But members of the jury who were not from Memphis but brought in from the Chattanooga area disagreed, reaching that verdict after an 8-day trial that included testimony from fellow former officer Desmond Mills Jr., who testified for the prosecution in exchange for a plea deal, and Nichols' mother, who recalled seeing her son in the hospital.
My son was beaten to a pulp. His head was the size of a watermelon. His nose was broken.
The Nichols family attorney Ben Crump calling the verdict a devastating miscarriage of justice, writing, "We are outraged and we know we are not alone." Another officer, Emmett Martin III's state murder case was severed and has not yet gone to trial. All 5 former officers either pleaded guilty or were convicted of lesser charges in their federal case. They're expected to be sentenced this summer. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
Now to protests at Columbia University where scuffles broke out on campus. Emily Acquitted is there. Emily, a tense day on campus at the library.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. Those demonstrations flooding the main library at Columbia University just ahead of finals. Videos showing clashes between the campus security and pro-Palestinian protesters as they were trying to leave and enter the building. Columbia University said that any protester who refused to show their identification and then disperse could face possible arrest. This all comes amid the Trump administration's crackdown on what they call harassment of Jewish American students, cutting hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding to the school. These protests, an apparent attempt to restart the sweeping movements we saw take over college campuses this time last year, Lester.
Emily Acquitted in New York tonight. Thank you. There are growing fears about the escalating conflict this evening between India and Pakistan after India retaliated following a terror attack striking targets inside Pakistani territory. Richard Engel has late details from the region.
Tonight, India and Pakistan are trading blows in an alarming clash between the nuclear-armed nations that could spiral into a new open war. It escalated dramatically overnight, with India carrying out military strikes against at least 9 targets it described as terrorist infrastructure in Pakistani territory, and releasing these new images of the operation. India said it's a response to a terrorist attack last month that killed 26 tourists in the Indian-controlled part of Kashmir. India quickly blamed Pakistan for the attack.
It was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice.
But the Pakistani government denies involvement and says its civilians were killed by an unprovoked act of war by India. Pakistan claims to have shot down 5 Indian fighter jets while they were attacking. The core of the issue is, and has long been, the region of Kashmir, which is partitioned. Each side claims all of the disputed region for itself. Tonight, President Trump is calling for de-escalation.
I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now.
Pakistan's prime minister said tonight that India must suffer consequences and promised that Pakistan would take, quote, corresponding action. Lester?
Richard Engel, thank you. Now to the latest alarming incident on an American aircraft carrier, a fighter jet falling off the ship into the sea. Courtney Kuby joins us now. Courtney, this is the second time in just over a week this has happened.
Yeah, that's right, Lester. 2 U.S. officials say Tuesday night an FA-18 jet was coming in for a landing on the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman when the tailhook missed the wires and the jet flew off the front of the carrier. Both pilots ejected, suffering only minor injuries, but this was just 8 days after another FA-18 on the Truman fell overboard as the ship turned in rough seas. Both incidents now being investigated. The Truman was targeting Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. President Trump announcing Tuesday the Houthis would stop attacking U.S. vessels in exchange for the U.S. stopping its strikes. The jets that were lost came with a price tag of $70 million each. Lester?
Courtney Kuby, thank you. Now to the showdown between the U.S. and China, both saying they'll hold high-stakes talks this weekend as the Fed chair warned today about the impact of tariffs. Gabe Gutierrez now with late details.
Tonight, with his new U.S. ambassador to China freshly sworn in, President Trump is insisting he's not budging just to strike a trade deal.
Are you open to pulling back your tariffs in order to get China to the negotiating table?
No.
Still, there are signs of progress between the U.S. and China in their standoff over tariffs. The country's announcing new talks in Switzerland beginning this weekend.
My sense is that this will be about de-escalation, not about the big trade deal, but we've got to de-escalate before we can move forward.
The trade war not yet shaking the Federal Reserve. Despite pressure from President Trump, the Fed today did not lower interest rates.
The economy itself is still, in solid shape.
But Chairman Jerome Powell with this warning: if tariffs last long term,
they're likely to generate a rise in inflation, a slowdown in economic growth, and an increase in unemployment.
Also today, another escalation in the White House's crackdown on illegal immigration. 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News the Trump administration is now planning to deport a group of undocumented immigrants on a military plane as early as this week to Libya. Though Libya's rival governments tonight both denying they've agreed to accept deportees from the U.S.
He's not behaving like a Republican president.
Meanwhile, former President Biden telling the BBC he does not regret staying in the race so long, despite criticism from Democrats.
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She is fully funded.
And as for the potential migrant deportations to Libya, President Trump did not comment. And late today, a judge said it would violate a prior court order. Lester?
Gabe, thanks. Tonight, the FAA is promising changes to help alleviate problems at Newark Airport, where flights have been delayed 4 to 14 hours. But the agency warns a total fix could take years. Here's Tom Costello.
At Newark Airport today, far fewer delays and cancellations as the FAA reduces traffic into and out of Newark airspace. With its big hub at Newark, United Airlines says from Saturday, April 26th through yesterday, nearly 11,000 passengers suffered through 64,000 hours of delays, due largely to air traffic control staffing issues, runway construction, and equipment failures, including the simultaneous loss of radars and radios last week.
3 of the 4 radar screens went black.
A current controller tells NBC News they've lost radars and radios multiple times since August. Last November, controllers say a FedEx plane drifted into LaGuardia airspace after Newark controllers lost comms. Citing stress, several controllers have now taken medical leave. Today, the FAA announced it's taking action, deploying a temporary backup radar system at the TradeCon in Philadelphia, leaning heavily on controller trainees who are certified in certain positions, and adding more telecom lines to improve unsteady transmission lines feeding radar data. But the upgrades could take till the end of the year.
That relay system through the New York TradeCon is what is contributing to or causing the outages.
Have your passport, real ID, and your boarding pass.
Meanwhile, minimal delays at TSA checkpoints nationwide as they began requiring real IDs or passports to travel. Passengers who have neither may be sent for secondary screening.
If I show up, I don't have a real ID, and oh boy, I forgot my passport, can I still get on my flight?
That is, you can, absolutely. And we're going to work with you to make sure that we go through certain procedures.
Back here at Newark, United Airlines calling on the FAA to regulate takeoff and landing slots, saying there are far too many planes than capacity here at the airport. But both United and the FAA insisting the airspace is safe. Lester?
Tom Costello, thank you. In 60 seconds, the manhunt underway in Texas. A murder suspect's cut off ankle bracelet and cell phones found. We'll have the latest on the search. All right, we turn now to Texas and an ongoing search for a man accused of murder, now believed to be on the run for days. Here's Liz Kreutz.
Tonight, an urgent manhunt underway for a Texas man accused of murder.
He is out on bond. He violated his conditions. He cut that ankle monitor off, and now we're after him again.
The U.S. Marshals joining the search for 32-year-old Trevor McEwen, who authorities say killed his neighbor in 2023. He was out on pretrial release and had been scheduled to stand trial for capital murder on Monday. But instead, officials say he fled and now believe he's no longer in the area.
He's moving. There's not a doubt about it.
According to the sheriff, on Monday morning, firefighters arrived to the property where they say McEwen was staying, 70 miles east of Dallas, and found a burning barn with an ankle monitor and cell phones inside, but no signs of McEwen. The family of the man McEwen is charged with killing Aaron Martinez, devastated.
We just want him to be found. We want justice to be served.
Records show McEwen was released from prison last year after his bond for the murder charge was lowered to $500,000. A week later, he was rearrested for violating his bond conditions, but released again with an ankle monitor. Tonight, as the search for him widens, investigators say it's unclear how McEwen left, what he was wearing, and won't confirm if he's believed to be armed.
Hopefully he don't hurt anybody else before we get him in custody.
And an attorney for McEwen says he was expected to enter a not guilty plea this past Monday. Authorities are offering a $10,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. Lester?
Liz Kreutz, thanks. We're back in a moment with the man gored by a bison. Plus, with an intense week of severe storms, the lightning strike caught on camera. At Yellowstone National Park, a Florida tourist was gored by a bison. The 47-year-old man was treated for minor injuries. Police, park officials, I should say the man approached the animal too closely. This is the first incident of its kind this year, with 2 reported last year. Check out a shocking moment in Texas. A security cam showing lightning striking a house during severe storms. Within seconds, you see a bright flash and smoke instantly shooting into the air. A closer look shows the roof covered in flames. Officials say 3 people inside the house were hospitalized. And a federal judge has ruled a lawsuit over the size of the Whopper hamburger can go on. Customers from across the U.S. sued Burger King, saying the sandwich was advertised 35% larger in size than it actually is. Burger King says the patties are the same as the ones advertised and that those claims are false. Still to come, back from the brink after a butterfly species went extinct, hope for a new generation is in the air. Finally, there's good news tonight for nature lovers. Some special butterflies now taking flight for good reason. Gotti Schwartz reports.
In this corner of San Francisco's Presidio National Park, there's a blue fluttering of a butterfly effect 80 years in the making. This is the story of the Xerxes blue, the first American butterfly to go extinct because of human development.
That's a female, it's a beauty.
The California Academy of Sciences now hoping to reintroduce these silvery blue cousins to the ecosystem to act as crucial pollinators. They are the closest genetic relatives found just miles away.
Just by moving it from one habitat with permission to another, we're trying to restart a blue butterfly population here in the Presidio.
So fix a problem that humans made.
Yeah, we're basically fixing a problem that humans caused.
It's important to remember that over a century ago, before the Golden Gate Bridge, before the gold rush even, this was the natural habitat for about half of the city of San Francisco. Sand dunes teeming with life.
And in this fragile ecosystem,
this is like a blue sign of hope. There they go.
There they go. Oh, wow.
In the dawn of this new age of bringing back dire wolves or creating woolly mice, for now, here the simplest solution is found in nature.
It's not about bringing back a velociraptor. It's like, is there a missing function that we really need? And is there a way to put that back in the landscape? It's like matchmaking, reweaving the web of life one species at a time.
Gadi Schwartz, NBC News, the Presidio, San Francisco.
And that's nightly news for this Wednesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.